after someone is hurt in an accident. Often they'll settle with the insurance company, but where does that settlement number come from? Is it just a guess? A number plucked from the sky? Here with legal information we can all use is Colorado's best attorney, Phil Harding from Harding and Associates. We're going to go over your resume first because it is quite extensive.
All right.
I'm going to remind everybody that you are a super lawyer. Super lawyer. Again, this year voted one of the top 100 lawyers in Colorado 6 years in a row. AV rated attorney, which is the highest rating a member of the $1 Million Advocates Forum can get. And national publications like Newsweek call you for information, and the list goes on and on. And you're a super great guy all around.
Well, thanks.
You're awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Phil, so what are we talking about today?
Today I want to go over the most basic of basics. That's how to get paid from an insurance company or in a jury and what makes up that payment.
Okay, so I always thought, everybody just kind of gets together, they agree on a number, they negotiate, and there it is.
Yeah, well, that's kind of it. I mean, that's the last part of this equation. And today we're going to dig into what the parts that make up a settlement number. And the more that you include in your settlement case or present to a jury, the more money you get with these individual components.
Okay, so we're going to be talking about economic, non-economic, physical impairment, and punitive damages. Let's get to it.
Wow, all right, so let's go over it. We have a graphic for this, and there are 4 categories, and these 4 categories make up what a settlement or verdict consists of, and each one will have a number attached to it if it's applicable. The more you know about each category, the more you can get. Now, these categories are, as you said, economic, non-economic, physical impairment, and punitive damages. And I'm going to talk about each one here in a second, but to help us understand these areas, I want everyone to think about these different areas like selling a car. And if you were going to sell a car and say, hey, I've got a great car for sale and it's 30,000 miles, you're probably not going to get that much money. Whereas if you say, hey, car for sale, it's got 30,000 miles, and by the way, it's been well maintained. It's a Ford Taurus. It's the SHO edition. It's got EcoBoost, and it's all-wheel drive. You're going to pay much more for that car, aren't you?
Right.
All right. Exact same thing here, because you want to know the individual components that makes up these damages.
Okay, so let's start with the first one, the economic damages.
Yeah, all right. Well, economic damages really are broken into a subcategory, and we have a graph for it. Let's talk a little bit about this. Medical expenses are not just medical bills that you've paid, but medical expenses in the future that you may need to treat your condition. You may be done treating after an injury, but your doctor might say, hey, you know what, you need to be treated twice a year to monitor your situation. So these bills are all of them, which means you need your past, present, and future medical bills. Also, you don't want to settle until you're done treating. If you settle before this, you may not know all of your medical expenses and damages. Now, the next thing is the loss of income, and that's the time that you had off work due to the injury or to medical appointments and the like. In fact, you should even keep track of your mileage going to and from every treatment. The last one is if you lost your job because of this incident, that goes into the calculation. Finally, if there's damage to your property like your car or loss of value to the accident, that goes into this economic component.
It seems like you have to keep track of every little thing, so you can recover mileage. I wouldn't have thought you could do that.
Yeah, and it's not that hard to keep track of. And let's just kind of go over this. Let's say you know that you went to 20 physical therapy appointments, okay? And let's say that you know that it's 10 miles round trip to physical therapy. So that's an easy calculation. It's 20 times 10 miles, and that's 200 miles times 23.5 cents. And even though that only comes out to 47 bucks, I got to tell you, we do this because we want to get every single penny for someone.
Okay.
Now let's talk about non-economic damages, and this is kind of like pain and suffering. Now, if you're married, your spouse has what's known as a loss of consortium claim. And what the loss of consortium claim really means is you used to do all this fun stuff with your spouse. Fishing, going up into the mountains. But what's happening now is your spouse is having to take you to these appointments. Okay. Now, we have something up here as well, which is the computation of damages. So we talked a little bit about the non-economic damages. Now let's talk about the physical impairment. And I got to tell you, if you settle your case, the insurance company is going to want, I want to jump back here for the loss of consortium. The insurance company is going to want your spouse to sign off on the release. So if that's the case, I want to get some money for that, right?
Okay, so you involve your spouse in this. That's interesting.
Yeah, well, they have a claim for this loss of consortium. Now let's go on to this other stuff, which is the physical impairment. And I've got to tell you, so here's physical impairment. You may be done treating, okay? But you may have permanent pain. You may have a scar. You may have some other physical, like a limp, and so you should be compensated for this. This is another part of the equation to get every single dollar that you're owed. The final area is called punitive damages. Now, these are rarely awarded, but punitive damages are only meant to punish those who committed the crime. And here's the other thing. On punitive damages, you have to prove that the person who did this was willful and wanton. And
wow.
what that means is it's an intentional act. It's harder to get, but when you put all of these components together,
right,
then you get more money. And it just makes sense, right?
Yeah, that does actually make sense. So if you have a question for Phil, he wants to hear from you, go to coloradosbest.tv and click on his photo, and he does answer all questions. He will answer them personally. And if you would like to contact Phil at his office, Harding & Associates, call 303-762-9500. You can also get a free consultation anytime, and you can find him online at hlaw.org. Thanks, Phil.
Thank you.
Coming